Hello students, we once again begin with Julius Caesar, Act 5, Scene 1. And this is basically for students of the ICSE board, class 10th, right? This is one of their last acts, and I'm sure you've already understood what Julius Caesar is. In case you have any problems, do message me. I'll try to make more videos for you, and courses are also available. So let's get to work. So Act 1, Scene 1, we have Octavius and Mark Antony on one side of the field. So if you have a look at the field, I'm just drawing it for you over here. So this is the field, and in this field you've got Octavius one side and Mark Antony and their armies over here. Got it? And at one side you have Brutus and Cassius. Got it? So you've got Brutus and Cassius and Octavius and Mark Antony. Right? So Mark Antony and Brutus and Cassius, this is the scene, and here you have their armies. And Octavius is very happy. Octavius is very happy. He says, "Now, Antony, our hopes are answered. You said the enemy would not come down but keep the hills and upper region." Now, please understand once again, I've explained it earlier, but once again, I'm explaining it to you. You see, this is how Sardis looked like. Sardis was a hilly region. And this is the place where you had Brutus and Cassius. They had their camps. And here you have Philippi. And this is where Mark Antony and Octavius. So Mark Antony and Octavius were right here in Philippi. Now it was not understood. I mean, nobody thought that they would actually come down over here to fight with them, with Octavius and Mark Antony, because of course it was strategically incorrect. However, because Brutus had said that they should come down, they came. Now you can see this in my earlier videos. It's available over there. So this was just a recap. Okay. So once again, in the recap, you have Brutus and Cassius. Their armies are coming down to a place known as Philippi. And then you have Octavius and Mark Antony already over here with their armies. And therefore, Octavius tells Mark Antony. Who is Octavius? Octavius is basically the nephew of Julius Caesar. Where are they? They are at Sardis. Got it? And here. "Now, Antony, our hopes are answered." He says, Mark Antony, whatever hope we had has been answered. Right? We wanted them to come down over here, and they've come down. You said the enemy. He says, you said. He's telling Mark Antony, you said. So Octavius is speaking to Mark Antony. He says, Mark Antony, you said the enemy. Who is the enemy over here? Brutus and Cassius. So he says, you said the enemy, that is Brutus and Cassius, would not come down. He says they would not come down. Come down from where? Okay. The question is, come down from where? It is from Sardis. This is the region, the hilly region where they were earlier. So he says, but would keep to the hills and upper region. He says they would remain in the hills. They would remain in the hills and the upper region. Got it? In Sardis. It proves not so. He says, it proves not so. Their battles are at hand. He says, they've come with their armies. Their battle is at hand, ready over here. They mean to warn us. Right? They mean to warn us. Warn us is fight us. At Philippi here, answering before we do demand. He says they want to answer before we even demand. He says before we can challenge them, they want to fight us. He said they want to answer, that means they want to fight us before we can even challenge them for this fight. T, I'm in their bosom. Mark Antony says T. What does T mean? Okay, very, see, these small little words such as T, etc., very important for the board. T basically means mockery. T. So he's taking it very slightly, he's mocking them. He says, I'm in their bosom. Bosom over here means heart. That means I know. I know their secrets. I know the secret that they have hidden in their heart. Got it? Wherefore they do it. He says, why do they do it? They could be content. He says, wherefore they do it means, why do you think they have come down? Do it over here means, why do you think they've brought their army down? They could be content. He says they would be satisfied to visit other places. That means to go somewhere else. They would be satisfied to go to some other place, hide themselves, and come down here with fearful bravery. He says, but over here you can see the word over here. This is it. So a completion, half completion of the sentence. He says they would be satisfied, content to visit other places, and have come down with fearful bravery. He says they've come down with a false bravery. Got it? They've come down with a fearful bravery. This is known as an oxymoron. Oh my. Oxymoron is when two opposite emotions come together. So it's over here fearful bravery. They're afraid, but they want to show that they're brave. All right. So inwardly they're afraid, but outwardly they want to show that they are very brave. Thinking by this face, he says, thinking by this face. Got it? So they think that by showing this kind of an external position, so they think by this face, that is external position. What is the external position? That means bringing their army down, of bringing their army to Philippi to fight. So bringing their army to Philippi to fight. He says by bringing their army down, thinking by this face. So they come with fearful bravery, thinking by this face. This face over here means, he uses the word thinking by this face. Face over here means outward show. He says by this face, the outward show of coming with their army to Philippi, to fasten in our thoughts that we have courage. He said they want to put in our thoughts that they have courage, but it is not so. Anthony says it is not true. They do not have any courage. They're just trying to fool us and make us feel that they are very courageous. Enters a messenger. Prepare you generals, the enemy come on in gallant show. So a messenger comes. This messenger is whose messenger? He is both Octavius and Mark Antony's messenger. And he comes and he says, prepare you generals. Who are the generals? The generals are Octavius and Mark Antony. Got it? So he says, prepare you generals. The enemy comes. Who is the enemy over here? Brutus and Cassius. The enemy is Brutus and Cassius, comes on in gallant show. That means they have a large armies. Got it? Large armies. There are two armies basically, Brutus and Cassius. Their bloody sign of battle is hung. That means they're already ready. They're ready for battle. They're already ready for battle. They have given the sign of battle. That means they carry the flag of battle. And something's to be done immediately. And we need to get our act together. We need to be also ready for battle. Octavius, lead your battle softly on. upon the left of the even side. My. Now, Octavius tells Mark Anthony, Mark Anthony tells Octavius, you lead your battles softly on. Softly means quietly, just take your battle to the left side of the field. Now, we do not exactly know what exactly is the meaning of this, because now let us say this is the battlefield and this is the left side, because it is my left and this is the right. So Octavius says, Mark Anthony tells Octavius that you need to take your battles towards the left side. I will take the right side. So perhaps it means that the right side is a more important side. The left side is not very important. Right? So he says, Octavius, lead your battles on softly. He says, you please take your army, your battle, quietly to the left side of the even field. He says even field. What is it? Why do we use the word even field? Because there are two meanings of the word even field. If that means the battle strategy, the fight is going to be even. Brutus and Cassius both are equally good opponents. Number two is because this is a plain. It is not a hilly region. It is a plain. So that is why he calls it a even field. So the meaning of the word even field over here is, so he says the even field is again the plains. Upon the right hand I keep thou the left. But Octavius immediately says, no, I will stay at the right, you go towards the left. Why do you cross me in this exigent? He says, at this important time, why are you why do you cross me? Cross means why do you put it? Why do you argue with me? Why do you disagree or argue with me? Why do you disagree or argue with me at this important time? I do not cross you, but I will do so. He says, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not saying, but I will do so, right? He says, I want to stay at the right hand. You go towards the left. Suddenly there's a march. Here enters Brutus and Cassius and their army, Lucius, Titinus, Messler, and the others. So we can see all of them over here. Brutus comes and again I'm once again bringing back, I'm showing you again the field. So I'm drawing the field in a different manner this way. This is all at Philippi. And here you have Mark Anthony and Octavius. And then over here you have Brutus and Cassius. And here you have the armies. Got it? They stand and would have parley. So Brutus says, I think they're waiting for us and they want to have a parley. Parley basically means a talk. They need to talk with us. Stand fast, Titnus, we must out and talk. So he says, Titnus, stand fast means be on guard with the army. We must go out and we will talk to them. Mark Anthony, Octavius, shall we give sign of battle? Mark Anthony says, shall we give sign of battle? That means, shall we begin the battle? No, Caesar. We will answer on their call. You see the word over here, Caesar basically means Octavius Caesar. He says, no, Caesar. We will answer on their charge. He says, let them begin the battle, then we will fight. Make forth, the generals would have some words. He says, I think the generals. Who are the generals over here? The generals over here are Brutus and Cassius. So Mark Anthony says, I think the generals, Brutus and Cassius, they want to talk to us. So let us go ahead and talk to them. Stir not upon the signal. So Octavius says, do not move until you get the signal from us. Now all of them meet and Brutus says, words before, is it so, countrymen? So Brutus says, do you want to speak to us? Is that so, countrymen? Who are the countrymen? Actually, Octavius and Mark Anthony. Not that we love words better as you do. He says, we do not love words the way you do. Now this is about the funeral speech. You remember this? Brutus's speech. So he says, not that we love words better, as you do. Good words are better than bad strokes. Brutus says, it is better to have good words. Got it? Speak sensibly than to have bad strokes. Over here, bad strokes over here means to fight or to go at war. Octavius, in your bad strokes, wonderful. Now comes Mark Antony. He says, in your bad strokes, Brutus, you give good words. He says, Brutus, in your bad strokes, you give good words. This, of course, is an allusion to, that means this is pointing towards. So he says, in your bad strokes, Brutus, you give us good words. Remember this. In your bad strokes, Brutus, you give us good words. That means when you killed Caesar, you had good words. Got it? You all had good words. That means you were speaking good words to Caesar, but you killed him. Right? So he says, in your good words, you have bad strokes. Got it? The murder is the bad stroke, and your good words is the appreciation you gave Caesar. Witness the hole you made in Caesar's heart. He says, do you remember how you stabbed Caesar, crying, long live Caesar? He says, you are always saying that long live Caesar, and you killed him. Now, this is untrue. This is definitely untrue. I don't remember, and I don't think it is in the play where they said, long live Caesar, and killed him. The word was, speak hands for me, when Cassius attacked them, okay? The words were, speak hands for me when Cassius, when the words were, speak hands for me when Casca attacked them, right? So I don't think they said, long live, hail Caesar. So this is absolutely incorrect. Why does Anthony say this? Perhaps he wants to impress Octavius Caesar, and he has told Caesar a lot of lies. Cassius, Antony, the posture of your blows are yet unknown. He says, and Cassius says, the posture, the way you attack. He says, the posture of your blows, the way you attack, is yet unknown. We do not know how you attack. You rob the Hybla bees. These were the famous bees which gave wonderful honey. Got it? You rob the Hybla bees and leave them honeyless. He says, you are so good at words. You are so good at words that you have robbed the Hybla bees of their honey. That means all the honey of the Hybla bees is now with you. What does he mean? That your words are so sweet that they usually compel people. Talking about the funeral speech. What do they talk about? What is he talking about? He's talking about the funeral speech, as well as, the word is funeral, as well as the speech, as well as his conversation with the conspirators. Right? Mark Antony is, of course, very prudent, that means very sharp, and he says, not stingless too. He says, don't worry, my um, he says, my attacks, my words he says remember. So Mark Antony says, don't, and Mark Antony says, be careful, my words have also got their sting in them. So he says, don't remember, please remember, my words have honey and they also have sting. That means I also know how to attack. Oh yes, and soundless too. And Brutus says, your even words are soundless too. For you have stolen their buzzing. He says, you've taken the buzzing of the Hybla bee. So what has he robbed from the Hybla bees? He has robbed their honey. That means his words are very sweet. He's robbed their sting. That means he attacks. And then he's robbed their sound. Their voice. That means you have You have stolen their buzzing. He says you even stolen their buzzing, and wisely threat before you sting. And why has he taken their sound? Because he threatens. Got it? He threatens before he stings. That means before attacking, he can threaten people. Got it? So he's taken their honey, speaks wonderful words. He's taken their sting, he attacks. And the third is he's taking the sound. That means he can threaten before he attacks. Villains, you did so when your wild daggers hacked one another in the sides of Caesar. He says you are villains because you are the ones whose evil daggers hacked one another in the sides of. He says you, each one of you, hacked Caesar. That means you attacked Caesar in the sides. You showed your teeth like apes. He says, and at that time you were smiling like monkeys. Apes are monkeys, and fawned like hounds. Got it? And you showed your teeth like monkeys, and you fawned smiled like dogs, and bowed like bondmen, and like slaves you were bowing. Kissing Caesar's feet. He says you were kissing Caesar's feet. You remember the speech when they were talking about uh, Publius Simba? So they were talking about Publius Simba, and they kept telling Caesar to forgive him. I bend low, etc. Whilst damned Casca's cursed Casca. Now, what word did he use for Casca earlier in this play? What word did Mark Antony use for Casca earlier in this play? That is very important. Please write it down in the comments, or just remember it, because this is a ICSE level question. Like a cur, he's calling Casca. He says damned Casca means cursed Casca, like a cur. Cur means like a dog behind. Struck Caesar on the neck. He hit Caesar on the neck. Oh, you flatterers. He says, you are the flatterers. You are the ones who have stolen the honey from the bees, not me. Cassius, flatterers? Now, Brutus, thank yourself. So he says, you're calling us flatterers? He says, you are calling us flatterers. He says, Brutus, thank yourself. He says, it is you, Brutus, who permitted him, allowed him. You thank yourself because you allowed him to live, otherwise we would have killed him. This tongue had not offended. So he says, this tongue, he says, Mark Antony would never have made us angry. Offended means made us angry. If Cassius might have ruled, if you had only listened to Cassius, if you had taken my advice, then today there would be no Mark Antony and there would be no problems. Come, the cause. Octavius says, come, let's fight. The cause is the reason. If arguing make us sweat, he said, we are going to sweat by just talking to each other. The proof of it will turn to redder drops. He says, let us prove it by blood. Let's have a war. I draw a sword against the conspirators. Suddenly he takes out his weapon and he says, I draw the sword against the conspirators. When think you the sword goes down? He said, when do you think will I put the sword back into its sheath, or that means into the cover? Till Caesar's 33 wounds. So he says, till Caesar's 33 wounds have been answered. Now we don't even know whether Caesar had 33 wounds. Right? Will be avenged. Avenged means we've taken the revenge on it. Till another Caesar, he says, until another Caesar. Who's the other Caesar? He's referring to himself, Octavius Caesar. Have added slaughter to the sword of traitors. He says he has also been killed by the sword of the traitors. Brutus says, thou canst not die by traitor's hand. He says, you cannot be killed by a traitor unless you bringest them with you. He says, how can you be killed by a traitor unless you bring the traitor along with you? Right? What does Brutus mean by this? Brutus means by this, Brutus says, we are your enemies. Brutus says, we are your enemies. Got it? Both Cassius and Brutus are the enemy of. He says, so we cannot be traitors. We've come here to kill you only. So we are not traitors. Unless you bring them with thee. He says, unless you bringest them over here means unless you bring traitors along with you. This is a reference to Mark Antony. He's saying maybe Mark Antony is the traitor who will kill you. So I hope I was not born to die on Brutus's sword. So he said, it means that Brutus will not kill me. Brutus's sword will. Oh, if thou were the noblest of thy strain. He says, even if you're the noblest in your family, young man, thou couldst not die more honorably. He says, young man, you could not die in a more honored manner than to be killed by Mark Antony, by me. Cassius, a peevish schoolboy. Got it? The word over here says, a peevish is complaining schoolboy, worthless of such an honor. He says, you've got no worth to be given this kind of honor, joined with a masker and a reveler. Please, these words are very, very important. So, how does Cassius describe Octavius? As a previous schoolboy, worthless of honor. And the second is Mark Antony as a masker and a reveler. Masker basically means a person who hides his original identity, a fraud. Correct? Modern word is fraud, but basically a person who hides his identity. And of course, and reveler. A masker is a person who hides his identity, and a reveler. Reveler again is a person who loves parties. Old Cassius still. So Mark Antony says, Cassius, you're still the same kind of a person. Come, Anthony, away. Octavius says, Anthony, let's go away. Defiance traitors, hurl we in your teeth. He says, we hurl a challenge in your teeth. If you dare fight, come to the field. He says, if you want to fight, let's begin it in the field. If not, when you have stomachs. He said, if you don't want to fight, whenever you have stomach. Stomach is courage. Whenever you have the courage, come and fight us. Exeunt Octavius, Antony, and the army. So Octavius, Mark Antony, and the army now leave. Cassius, why now? Blow wind, swell below. You remember we were talking about Brutus had spoken about that we are at the high tide. And there is a high tide in the life of human beings. He says, why now? Wind blow, swell below. He says, wind blow, swell billows. Billows are the so on a ship. Got it? So on the ship you've got the sails. These are known as the billows. So he says, swell billows, let the billows be filled with wind. Swim bark. Bark is let the ship move. The storm is up and all is at the hazard. She says the storm has come and everything is now at a risk. So that means we have to begin our journey. We have to begin our journey. Ho, Lucius, hark a word. Brutus says, Lucius, hark a word. That means listen to me. Stand forth, my lord. So he comes and he says, yes, my lord. Brutus and Cassius, they have a conversation. They're talking to each other. Why now? Blow wind, swell blow, swim bark. Again, Cassius says the same words. Got it? Let the wind blow and let us begin our journey. What journey? The journey of the ship. The storm is up and all is on the hazard. Ho, Lucius. Brutus says, Ho, Lucius, hark a word with you. And he says, let me speak to you. They stand forth and Lucius says, my lord. I think we've said the same thing again. Messler, stand forth. What says my general? Messler comes and he says, what do you say, my general? Messler, this is my birthday. So Cassius says, Messler, today is my birthday. As on this very day was Cassius born. He says, and I was born on this day. Give me thy hand, Messler. He says, Messler, give me your hand. I want you to swear. Be thou my witness. He says, you are my witness that against my will, he says, it is not my desire. As Pompey was, he says, even Pompey was compelled to fight against Crassus. You remember that in the beginning? So Pompey was compelled to fight against Crassus. Got it? And where he fought and he was killed. Right? He says, in the same way, I'm being compelled to fight because he wanted to fight from Sardis. But it was Brutus who brought them down. So he says, I'm being compelled to set upon one battle all our liberties. He said, in one battle, I've been compelled to put all our liberties, that means all our entire strength just upon this battle. You know that I held Epicurus strong. He says, earlier I used to consider Epicurus strong. Got it? That means I never believed in omens. Epicurus is a philosophy. They never believed in omens. Omens are basically outward signs. Got it? I never believed in outward signs. And his opinion, now I changed my mind. He says, but now I have changed my mind. And partly do credit things that presage, and I have begun to believe, credit is believe, things that do presage, presages that foretell, presages foretell, and I partly do presage, presages foretell things. Coming from Sardis on our former ensign, he says earlier when we are coming from Sardis on our former ensign, ensign is they had this flag. Now please understand the flag was of this type. You have two types of flags. So this is the kind of flag, this is the pole, right? And you carry it this way. And here's the flag. So he says over here, there were two mighty eagles that sat down. Two mighty eagles, they perched. He says, and there were two mighty eagles that perched on it, that sat upon our flag, which was a sign of victory, gorging and feeding from our soldiers' hands. He says they were they were hungrily eating from our soldiers, who to Philippi had consorted us, and they came with us till they came to Philippi. Consorted means came with us. This morning they fled away, he says, but today morning they've gone away. And instead, he says, and instead of them do ravens, crows, and kites. These are scavengers. What are scavengers? Scavengers. Scavengers are basically those birds that eat dead bodies. Got it? Dead animals. He says, and in their stead do ravens, crows, and kites fly over our heads. He says, they are flying over our heads. As we were sickly prey. He says, as though we are sickly prey. That means we are prey. Prey is animals that are going to be eaten. Sickly prey. Got it? As though we are going to die and they will eat us. Their shadow seems, he says, the shadow of what? The crows, ravens, crows, and kites. Got it? You know what ravens are? Ravens are black color crows. Crows are normal crows, and kites. Kites again, like eagles. Their shadows seem a canopy most. Canopy is a covering, a circular covering. It's called a canopy. Most fatal. Fatal means most evil. Under which our armies lie, ready to give their ghost. It seems that our army are ready to die. Believe not so. Now, I do not know. Suddenly, we are hearing Messler talking to, or with Messler speaking to Brute. Messler. And here, Messler tells Cassius, do not believe it. I believe it but partly. He says, I don't believe it completely, but just partly. For I am fresh of spirit and resolved to meet all perils very constantly. Because I'm really fresh of spirit. Fresh means I've got all the energy. And I'm not really very afraid. But I just partly believe it. Brutus and Lucilius are there. Brutus says, even so, Lucilius, he's just finished his conversation. So you see, Casca was speaking to Messala while Brutus was speaking to Lucilius. Cassius, now most noble Brutus, the gods do stand friendly that we may, lovers in peace. So Cassius once again reminds Brutus, he says, Brutus, the gods are happy with us. Friendly means happy. That we may lovers in peace. Lovers in peace means friends in peace. Lead on our days to age. He says we can become old. We can remain friends till our old age. But since the affairs of men will rest uncertain. He says, but the affair of a man, he says, the life of a man is always uncertain. Let's reason with the worst that might fall. He says, let's think about if the worst happens. What is the worst? If we lose the battle. What will happen if we lose the battle? If we do lose this battle, then is this the very last time we shall speak together? He says, if we lose the battle, is this going to be the last time we are going to speak together? What are you then determined to do? He says, tell me, what are you determined to do? Mark it over here. Great. So I'll be completing all this later on with you. All right. And I hope you enjoyed this class. We'll work on this later. Okay. God bless you all. Have a nice day.